Hello there, and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
And I'm Chip.
And boy, you know, they said it over and over again, and I'm going to tell you now, we can't repeat this stuff. We can't write it, never mind repeat it, because it's enough to get a shot. It's interesting. This week has been loaded with information, and let's start with some of the smaller, non-sequitur things, for the lack of a better expression. Recently, a Fall River police officer, Lieutenant Raposa, was arrested for domestic abuse and turned in his paperwork for retirement. Now, it's interesting because Mr. Raposa, although acquitted on 2 previous charges of lewd and lascivious for urinating in a rest area in Swansea and driving under the influence of alcohol, this time he knew he wasn't going to get off on this charge. So he put in his paperwork for retirement. And this is a fun thing about Fall River, because even though you've done something wrong and you've disgraced your uniform, you still can get your pension. You know, and then we complain that we don't have the money for our pensions. And I guess this is a regular recurrence. Chip, I mean, tell me, how often does somebody actually get their pension pulled in Fall River?
Well, I really don't recall anyone ever having a pension not given out if they put in for it. The fact is that we've had numerous cases, to my knowledge, of people who were looking at a disciplinary action, a possible termination, and rather than take the disciplinary action and the chance of termination and maybe the loss of pension, goes down to the retirement board and puts in for retirement. And to my knowledge, I don't think there's ever been a pension rejected based on a pending any kind of pending disciplinary action.
You know, in a lot of ways, I think that's sad, but I can understand how, you know, these people have worked for a long time and they've paid into this pension system and they're vested. And because Massachusetts does not pay into the Social Security system, they don't have that as a fallback position. So I can understand that a little bit, but I don't think that you should be awarded for, you know, your wrongdoings. I just don't think it should happen. But, you know, that's just me.
Well, I've got a little different I think that there are certain things that they should lose their pension for. If they did something to harm the city, did something, you know, if they had a departmental infraction, they've had serious problems, and you know, but they realize they can't do the job anymore and they don't want to get a suspension. If they've paid into the system for 15 or 20 years, you know, and they've got a small pension or a pension coming, I'm not sure if that's almost giving them capital punishment, because they did put in the time. But when it comes to things like malfeasance and when they do when they're guilty of political corruption, I think that to give them a public pension when they're guilty of political corruption, which has happened in many cases, especially up in Boston. We see how many speakers of the House have been walked out and basically in handcuffs, and now it's happening in Rhode Island. And inevitably, they always get their pension.
Yeah, well, and again, like you said, they do pay into it, but seems like other states and other communities around the country, if you do something wrong, like domestic abuse, driving under the influence, you don't get your pension, you lose it, and that's, you know, an interesting thing. But to move on a little bit, you know, we're in such a financial crisis right now, and we're having difficulty with everything. So what should we talk about when we're having difficulties and things hard to face? Let's talk about a casino. Come on. I mean, so what's going on now? Foxwoods is changing its plan again. Foxwoods wants to seek waterfront property. And they're going to put back, now we're back to the $750 million investment into this destination casino. And of course, the mayor doesn't want to talk too much about possible locations and what's happening, and Kenny Fiola cannot be heard. I wonder why Kenny Fiola can't be heard from. Well, maybe because if it doesn't go into the Harbor Mall, he's done all that work that he's insisted he's done, and he put that casino at the Harbor Mall. And why should he care? Because it wasn't going into the North End, and the North End people don't care. The only place I think we have waterfront property is in the North End that's available.
I think, yeah, when we're talking about usable property.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in the north end. So now what's going to happen? The north end's going to rise up. The pitchforks are coming out.
Well, it's always the trump card. That's the royal flush. Whenever the city has any kind of other problems, we divert attention by talking about here comes the casino, and now of course we couldn't use here comes the casino at the Harbor Mall. We've already used that one.
Right.
So now it's here comes the casino on the waterfront. Because I can tell you right now, if I've got a chance to go to Macau, to the largest casino in the world, I think the mayor said this was going to be maybe the third largest casino in the world. If I got a chance to go to Las Vegas or Macau or Fall River, I can tell you one thing, I'm not coming to Fall River.
I mean, really, it's, it's sad to say, but it's so very true that, why do we have to keep running back to this casino thing every time we turn around? Because the date was extended. So because the date was extended to September 23rd, they can now do a little more investigation into where to locate this casino. It's interesting. We received a little bit of inside information from reliable sources in city government that have told us that the budget deals, or I should say the departmental deals that are being cut by the mayor with the different departments are not as clear-cut as we are originally made to think. Several of my resources, and I went and confirmed them, have clearly stated that the DCM, otherwise known as the DPW, was told they're not being privatized. There's a caveat on that, which the press did not pick up on, but of course, you'll hear it first at Spindle City Straight Talk. The caveat on it is if the mayor's budget is accepted by the city council. Interesting caveat. And also I understand that that same caveat is being applied to the fire department. What would that mean to Fall River? Because we've already heard from 4 or 5 city councilors that they're not supporting this budget. Chip, we're looking at 22 firefighters. We're looking at an entire department that if the mayor's budget isn't met, we have to find the money for it somewhere. And we don't know. And the only way he can do this is if his budget is met. Is there something else going on that we can't figure out or that maybe we don't see?
Well, obviously, the mayor's going to propose a budget that funds those aspects of the city. The way his numbers are going to read, the budget he's going to present supposedly has a DPW that stays in control of the city and doesn't go to privatization, and we add 22 firefighters. Now he's saying that if he doesn't get his budget and it doesn't go through for any reason, we were told that they were told that we're not gonna keep DPW and they're not gonna get the 22 firefighters. So at best, that's a little disingenuous on the part of the mayor, because he should be straight with the people and tell them that, look, this is the way it is, and I think it's really unfair to the 22 firefighters and the DPW workers that are now saying, well, we're going to keep our jobs, hip hip hooray, which isn't something new, by the way. I went into my vast hoarding boxes from all the years doing this thing, and DPW gets reprieve. It's pretty on point for what we're looking at. The only problem with this is that if you look at the date, that says Thursday,
Halloween.
October 31st, 1996.
Which was under Mayor Ed Lambert.
So it seems that any time we get into any kind of financial problem, the first action is to lay off working people, not administrators.
Of course.
So this is not new, and I think it's really unfair to these people. And we've also heard through the rumor mill grapevine, whatever you want to say, which,
little bluebirds that come in.
as we continue to say, most of the time they're right, that these people have been told basically that they should, in fact, lobby for the budget to be passed. And if that is true, that is some very tenuous, that's a very tenuous position, because we tread on legalities here, because the reality is that while the mayor has 100% right under the law to say, look, this is the budget. If you don't give me the money the way I want to use the money, I'm not going to do this because I'm not going to have the money in my estimation, and then people can refute it and argue over it. However, when you make a proviso of maintaining manning levels or maintaining departments, that there has to be a political action on the part of the people involved, that's dangerous, because now you're treading on federal regulations. You're basically asking for them to do a political action, and it can be looked upon as almost a violation of the Hatch Act, or from a labor standpoint, it can be looked upon as coercion of the employees, which is prohibited by Chapter 150E of Massachusetts General Laws. You can't coerce employees to do anything in order to get something, and that's one of the elements of an unfair labor practice. So I don't know. We don't know what's going on here, but this is a dangerous thing. This is why I said it's a little disingenuous for anybody to say, this is the budget, I'm keeping DPW. What is he going to do? At the day, if the budget's rejected, he's going to say, I'm not going to do what I promised. I'm not going to put 22 firefighters on. I'm not going to keep the DPW.
Well, it's scary because, again, like you said, it's kind of like twist my arm. And, it hurts. I mean, it really hurts. It hurts the city. It hurts the workers. And it also breeds more untrust for our elected officials. And I have on several occasions gone to the Department of Revenue, and I've laid all of this out to them. And they made it absolutely clear that they do not have enforcement capability. We take the reports, we make sure the reports are on time, we file them, and we certify the free cash. That's what they do. Enforcement is with the Attorney General, who happens to be too busy running for governor that she can do anything. And to get an audit by the State Department of Revenue, the procedure you have to go through is the mayor has to propose to the DOR to come in and do an audit of every account, of every book, of every department within city government. That has got to go to the city council, who then has to approve that request and approve the payment for that service. And then the Department of Revenue will come in and do the audit. Sounds to me like the chicken's got control of the fox got control of the chicken coop, and we're in trouble.
Yeah, welcome to get the reality of government. They are a self-perpetuating massive incompetence. That's the best way you can. And this is where we get back to the reason. We were talking about the DPW and the firefighters, and I just don't understand. We get back to the core problem here, the bottom line, that this city refuses to prioritize what it spends its money on. Because I don't care if the mayor doesn't get the budget in the fashion that he's presenting it right now, which is probably protecting all the political jobs that he's given out.
Of course.
And all the big money jobs and all the pay raises that he gave his friends. The fact is that this city and its taxpayers are paying to put those 22 firefighters. They're going to raise my taxes. I don't want to pay the flunkies that he's put on and giving them 50% pay raises. That's what we're gonna get an increase in our taxes. We're gonna get an increase in our water fees. We're gonna get our health care cut.
And we're gonna get pay as you throw.
And we're gonna get pay as you throw probably. And what do we get from this? We get to get told, listen, if I don't get exactly what I want so I can keep all my friends with their head in the trough, The heads that are going to roll are the heads that provide essential services. And I have continued to say, this is why we have to clean house. Anybody that doesn't understand that there are essential services that I feel any city or town has a moral obligation to provide, those are public safety and education and health. You got to have somebody picking up your trash. You've got to have your police department. You've got to have your fire department, and you have to educate your children. And after you do that, then you've got time for the little extras, for the whipped cream and the cherry and the sprinkles. But in this city, we get rid of the ice cream and we keep the toppings.
Well, it sounds better, I guess. And speaking of big jokes, and I mean, we have a huge one right now. How many of you people watched or heard about the budget meeting for the school department? Anyone? I don't know. I'll tell you how long the meeting lasts. 9 minutes, 19 seconds. Must have been a very thorough budget meeting. 3 people gave citizens input time, and then the mayor called for the motion to adjourn. Nothing was discussed. Nothing was talked about, not even the budget. But then the next day, Mr. Mayor Will Flanagan announces that it's a $97 million allocation for the Fall River school budget. How? The school committee never even voted on it. Rather interesting point. But here's the bigger point. Now we're going to play 3-Card Monte. Love that game, don't you? 3-Card Monte here. City budget. Currently, because of the transportation issue, which does not meet net school spending, we are $2.8 million short on net school spending for 2014. And according to Massachusetts law, that budget number, $2.8 million, has to be moved into the fiscal year 2015 budget. And according to the budget numbers that I have here from the school department, that was moved in as a rollover on line 39, carryover, account 21, $2.8 million. But then at the end, the budget is still $5.6 million short. But because they met 95.7% of net school spending, they're at 4.3%, so they can't lose Chapter 70 money. But the problem is, let's do the shuffle here. We never paid the $2.8 million. We just moved it forward. We're carrying a balance, which is illegal. And I mean, how would you see that? I'm honestly, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, is this,
Well, it's the old fuzzy math. You know, the fact is that the old adage that figures don't lie, but liars can figure. I can tell you, well, CJ, I'm going to pay you your $2.8 million, but then I'm going to owe you another $5 million. So did I really pay you the $2.8 million? If I owe you $5 million, I owe you more than I did before we started.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I don't understand. And they wonder why we get in the financial conditions we're in this community. And you look at our financial team, it looks like Heckle and Jekyll. Because every time they go up there's a different set of numbers. It looks like we have a money machine that's been installed because we started with a $16 million deficit. Then they found money and it's only a 3. Now we've got an additional, I think the school budget went up from 94 up to 97, right? And some of those numbers, it went up. So where did they get the money? They keep adding things and it's like, wait a minute. Didn't like a week and a half ago they said that we didn't have any money?
Of course.
That we were $16 million in a hole, but now we add 22 firefighters.
No, but it doesn't affect the budget.
But it doesn't affect the budget. We add money to the school department, but it doesn't affect the budget. And we're going to maintain the DPW, which we said we had to get rid of, but it doesn't affect the budget. So, I don't know. Maybe it's time to get the feds down here because, I mean, the taxpayers are just getting, we are the people who are the victims of this charade. And that's all you can really call it. It's a charade because, I mean, we continue to talk about we've got no money, then it appears, it magically appears, and it's the same thing. Look at this year's budget, and then look at next year's budget. They're contending that if we fund this year and we push everything into next fiscal year, that we're going to be okay next year. Well, if you're already starting with a deficit that you pushed into next year's budget, how are we going to get by next year's budget without being in a deficit? Because they've already said that we only raised $2 million from raising property taxes. And if I look at the numbers, we're already almost $4 or $5 million in the hole.
Well, and the really interesting thing is, I mean, let's go back to, the poor Kota Ding, Sean Kadim, okay? Because this is all his fault now. He's gone, so he can't defend himself. But he said, when the fiscal year 2014 school budget came out, he said, that is unsustainable. But the city budget was sustainable. We're doing well. But the school department budget was unsustainable. He leaves, and now none of the budgets are sustainable. What happened to sustainability? It doesn't seem to be an important part of Fall River budget making, that's for sure.
Yeah, it becomes irrelevant when you have people who are just worried about making a public appearance of propriety. And we can't have that. I mean, it's our money. It's our money that they're misappropriating. It's our money that they're misdirecting and paying, fat when they're not providing the services that they need. It's something that everybody should be incensed about and everybody should be upset about, because it is just, I mean, it's you look at this thing and it's, you have to shake your head and go, my Lord, what is going on here? Because it seems that we can't do the most simple math.
Yeah, and it really is sad, because, the city council has been making it very clear that they have some very serious concerns about the fiscal year 2015 budget. And the biggest concern I think all of us have, citizens and the city council and our elected officials, are that the budget's due out next week. Because the 1st of June falls on a Sunday. So does that give the mayor until Monday to get it out, or does that mean he's going to get it out on Friday?
Well, I don't know when he's going to get it out, but I'm sure that it's going to be quite a ride. I think we're going to have some pretty good shows during the budget, because I really believe there's going to be some fireworks in that council chamber.
There's definitely going to be fireworks. There's no question about it. And the biggest problem we're going to have is that we're going to be looking at this whole conflagration, for the lack of a better of a word or strange word. It's going to just be a mess, because nobody's going to understand what's put in front of them and where the money's going to come from.
And the fact is, it's the trust issue too. What we have here is, CJ and I just looked at the DVD of the last council meeting again to confirm it, as we always try to do. Mr. Nunez, or whatever, I don't know how he wants it pronounced. Feel free to call us and let us know how you want your name pronounced, because I want to pronounce it properly. Under questioning, said that as of June 30th, 2013, the end of the last fiscal year, that the employee trust fund had $4.1 million in it. Well, Friday's show, we tape it, I'll bring in the document. I have the document that was signed by the treasurer, the auditor, and Madeline Coelho, the director of Health and Human Services, that is dated June 30th, 2013, that said we had $6 million in the trust fund. So how can we trust anything? We had the city treasurer saying to the city council we had $4 million in the account, when I have a document that was signed by the treasurer, the auditor, that said we had $6 million. So either they were lying to the employees and the insurance advisory committee, or they're lying to the city council. And when every time they appear, there seems to be a different number, how can you have confidence in anything they say? We're like Chicken Little. You keep saying the sky's falling, and then after a while people ignore you.
Well, this is definitely a group that I want to put all my money in for, finance management, because obviously they just make it appear or disappear, depending on the mood they're in. And that's a really scary thought. I mean, you're the treasurer. You're supposed to have the answer. But I can tell you one answer I always know I'm going to get. I don't have that information right now. I'll have to look it up and get back to you. I mean, and we sat in the city council chamber and we were waiting for that answer, and guess what? We got it. Right after City Councilor Mitchell said, I don't want that. So, you know, the people of Fall River are getting fed up. I know I am, and I sit here and I read this bull every day of the week. What about you? We bring it to you, and I get no information back. But what I can tell you is, I know we're doing something right when I'm in the market and people are running up to me saying, hey, Mr. TV man, I want to talk to you about the stuff you talk about. I want to know about this, this, and this. Or, you know, people are saying, can you get your TV show on Channel 20 and put it in Portuguese so we can hear it? I mean, people are interested. They want to know. So we are going to look into those things. You know, our show is growing very rapidly. Our viewership is, and that's because of you and because of where you are and the information you provide us. Our tip lines are always available. Chip, I'm going to give you a few minutes here to let us know what's on your mind.
Well, I think that, you know, we do, you know, we bring a lot of information, and we try to bring a lot of information on this show. And I think it's important that we have to look at what this information truly means. It means that the government isn't really working for us. And it should, and everybody that's watching this program should remember what the result of ineffective, inefficient government is. That is, the people suffer. They don't suffer. They have an unlimited income, us. We pay for their incompetence, their inefficiency, and if they're not forced to become efficient by either voting them out or requiring them to do the right thing, like fund essential services, we are impacted. You can't ever forget that. You know, people get upset when they hear about something and they say, yeah, that really upsets me, but it's got to be more than that. You've got to get involved, because the fact is that this has an effect on your life, my life, CJ's life, and everybody's life. This isn't just politicians, you know, skimming some money off the top. This is money that is taxpayer money on a local level that impacts your life every single day, and we can't allow this.
You're right, Chip, and I think that's ending the show on a perfectly good note. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, our show is growing. We're now available on Vimeo at vimeo.com/SCST, and our shows will start airing there shortly. I want to thank you for watching, and if you have any tips, please get a hold of our tip line. Once again, it's been great being with you, and please continue to watch. Have a great day.
Stay active.